Hi guys, Mike here from Computer Interactive. Welcome back to the channel. Today I've got something a little bit different for you. A couple of weeks ago I made kind of an alright game. And at its peak I think it reached 15th most popular game and 10th most popular horror game on itch. Now I didn't expect that, I was just doing this as a little bit of practice for upcoming projects, but I got some really good feedback about this game. So what I wanted to do, I wanted to go into the project and actually show you around, show you some of the things that I did, go through some of the things that went well, some of the things that didn't go so well, things that were just downright shit, and basically try and give you a few tips on how to optimize your own projects. Now, if you see anything in this video that you want an actual tutorial on, then let me know in the comments. But what I'm going to do in this video, I'm just going to give you kind of a quick overview of the entire project, and you're going to get a behind the scenes look at how it was built. But before we start, I just want to thank Gigatank3000 for sponsoring this video. I've got his links down in the description below. Go check him out on Twitter, go check out his website, keep up to date with what he's doing. And I also just want to thank everybody supporting me over on Patreon as well. You guys are fantastic. So let's jump on over into the 13th floor. So here it is, the 13th floor, opening its natural habitat of the Unity editor. And one thing that you may notice already, the project folder is a little bit of a mess. Towards the end of development, I got a little bit sick of the folder hierarchy and yeah, that just kind of went by the wayside. But the things that are in folders kind of make sense, or they do for me anyway. That was the first thing I actually wanted to cover, the fact that a good folder structure for a project makes it so much easier. Like you can see in this one, I have different folders for all audio effects, which are split out into ambient music, sound effects, and the voice clips, so they were easy to find. All of these icons that you can see are my 3D model packs, which I made myself over in Blender. I'll give you a look at those shortly. But the rest of the folder structure is pretty much what you'd expect. Separate folders for different script logic, my different scenes, any settings for the render pipelines, one custom shader, because I needed a two-sided billboard shader, which Unity apparently doesn't support, but somebody over on GitHub does. Because I hate shader coding. So here we are, this is what you wanted to see, the actual map in all its glory. Ta-da! Now there are some good things about this and some, quite frankly, terrible things that I'm never going to do again, and we'll cover those. And you'll also notice, just a little Easter egg here, the girl that's in the game is always in the game. All I do is hide her above the map whenever she's not in use. By doing that, I don't have to keep enabling and disabling the game object, I don't have to keep track of positions or anything like that. I can just throw her into a default position above the map where the player is never going to see her. And as you'll notice in the hierarchy view, each of the bedrooms, or each of the hotel rooms rather, are their own separate game object. Now, the game object itself is nothing, it's just an empty game object, but everything that's inside that room is held within that object. So everything can be moved at once. It can all be toggled at the same time if needs be. And it also just keeps the hierarchy a lot cleaner than if everything was just in one subfolder. And just to cover a couple of questions that I did have about the game, there is actually nothing behind the doors that you never unlock. Initially there was meant to be, but okay, I'll admit it, I ran out of ideas. So the technical stuff first, it was made using Unity, obviously, and it was made using the standard render pipeline. Now, I didn't use the universal render pipeline because there's a couple of drawbacks that I really wanted for this game that the URP just didn't support. Those are lighting cookies. So that's the effect that you get from the torch that you have in the game, or the flashlight, where you can see the rings. For whatever reason, the URP just doesn't support cookies. And another one was real-time shadows for point lights. And again, I'm not quite sure why it doesn't. There's probably some technical reason why it can't do it, but URP doesn't support real-time shadows from point lights, which I really wanted for this because half of the ambience coming from a horror game is the light or lack thereof, and then the effects that you can get with flickering shadows. And I also had to put my dog in there. Now, one of the key things that I did want to focus on when I was making this project was reusability, and that was because I knew for a fact that I was going to be making more games in this kind of PS1 low poly aesthetic. So the more things that I could take away from this project and implement in any new ones, the better. That'll save me a lot of time. So I went ahead and I created bundle packages from a load of different elements in this game. So for example, I now have a bundle package with this PlayStation renderer, which I have done a tutorial on my channel already. So now what I need to do, I just need to drag and drop that into a new project and it's automatically set up to be a PS1 style game. Nice and simple. Other stuff that I've got, I have asset packs that can be reused. For example, the smaller props like the plants, the wet floor signs, everything like that, they're all in a separate package. So you may or may not see some of these in future games. Again, just to save a little bit of time. And just to show you how you do that, if you right click inside anywhere in your assets folder, click export package, you can then select every element from your project that you want to export as a package. So I exported everything to do with the PS1 renderer into its own package, and then I did that again with the first-person controller, did that again with the interaction system, and so on. And I just wanted to show a couple of things that quite a lot of people who have streamed my game actually picked up on. The little Leon Easter egg statue. So all that is, it's just a basic 3D model with a head that's separated from the body. It has a little script on it, again, which I have done. I think this was one of my YouTube shorts, and I show you how to just follow the player around, but only when they're not looking. So in case you did miss that Easter egg, what happens is, whenever you're not looking at the game object, on became invisible's triggered, and we're going to take that and look at the player's position on the Y rotation. That gives that effect of him watching you going up and down the corridor whenever you're not looking. Pretty nifty trick, pretty spooky. And another thing that people really liked was how many interactable objects there were. Now, not every object was interactable in the sense that it did something, like the grate, that's an interactable object, but it's only interactable once you've gone and collected the screwdriver from the back wall. And the interaction system works really well because it's one controller script in essence that every interactable object inherits from, just with a few different overrides. And I do plan on making a full tutorial on how to do that in the future because I know a lot of people have been asking about this. But really simply, if we take one of the game objects that are interactable just for a text prompt, this book for example, we see I've got a script called generic interaction, which just has a public variable on there for the message that we want to see on screen. So if we open this up, we can see that generic interaction inherits from interactable. Now I've created interactable. And what's unique about this one is whatever this game object is on, a collider will automatically be added because we need a collidable for it to be interactable because we do the interaction through raycasting. And then I have some reserved methods which are interact and on highlight. I also have an on lose highlight as well for certain objects. So if we open up interactable and we'll check out what this does. Now you can see it's a relatively simple script, but this one does inherit from mono behavior because we're going to be attaching this to game objects. In the awake, I automatically set the game objects layer to be layer 9, which is my interactables layer. Now, by default, it is set to default. And I could go in and change this manually to the interactable layer. But if I do it this way, if I forget to change an object's layer, it's done on the launch of the game anyway. So if an object is interactable, it will automatically be put on the interactable layer. And then you can see we're just making use out of abstract and virtual methods here by creating an interact, an on highlight, and then on lose highlight is virtual because I wanted to actually have a default action to run whenever you aren't looking at the object anymore. And by default, all that's going to do is in my UI manager, I'm going to clear that text prompt if you're no longer looking at it. But then if we pop back over to our generic interaction script, we can see that now I override interact. So whenever we interact with a generic interaction object, it's just going to show the message that we've populated in the inspector, which is a really, really simple thing to do, but a lot of people picked up on how interesting some of these objects were, how interesting some of the messages were, and maybe one or two of the dirty jokes. And now for something that is not done well at all. Now it works, and for something this small, maybe it's perfectly fine, but I won't be making a game like this again. And the thing that I'm talking about is the fact that large chunks of the map are one game object. So the walls, the lift shaft, all of that is one game object. The rooms are separated, but they're in the same kind of way. They're shaped out to be the shape of a room. Now, you might be saying to yourself, but Mike, why shouldn't we do that? Well, I'll tell you. So say we have our corridor. This is split up into one object for the floor, one object for the walls, and one object for the ceiling. Now, if I wanted to, for example, make this door interactable and you can go outside. Now, on the other side, I just have this plain white room because, again, I had a different idea for how I wanted to end the game, but that did change during development. But if I wanted to actually change this, this is still part of the hallway, walls and floor system. So I'd have to go into Blender and I would have to completely remodel this corridor, which could affect everything in the game. And I don't want to do that. Now, luckily, I didn't need to make any architectural changes like that during development. I was lucky. But that is a major drawback of designing your maps like this. The way that you should do it is using modular designs. So in the project that I'm working on now, which I will be putting out a little bit more information on very soon, I'm making modular asset packs. So instead of one long wall going down there, I'm going to have a 2 meter wide wall section, which I can then drag and drop and build my maps inside of Unity rather than inside of Blender. That means if I ever wanted to change it, all I need to do, delete a few pieces, add a few more in, add a corner, bang, done. Staircase, delete the floor, bang, put the staircase in, we have a staircase. You get the idea. I don't know why I didn't do that. I knew about modular assets prior to making this, and I was an idiot and I decided, I just want to make a game. Let's go into Blender and do it quickly. Bad idea. Always start with a plan. Plans are good. And speaking of that ending, I will admit, is absolute shite. And the reason for that is, one, I'm not that creative when it comes to plot ideas, and two, I did rush it. I rushed it out just to say that I had a game out, and again, that's not something you should be doing. You really want to take your time and take care over every little aspect of your game. Make it as good as possible. In the upcoming project that I've got, that won't be an issue. I've been working with somebody else, really fantastic, and we've gelled together quite a decent plot. Now, I'm not promising that I'm going to be releasing a AAA game, but it's going to be a lot better than this one. That leads us on nicely to one of the final things I just wanted to mention about it. Feedback. Feedback from players is invaluable because they showed me things that I didn't even realise. For example, one of the major bugs at the start was the fact that this plant pot, you could get stuck behind it. Now, I didn't realise that. I hadn't tested coming out here, running into this plant pot, jumping around, crouching, and then getting stuck. Somebody did. And the reason for that, in case anybody who did find it or encounter it's watching, the actual plant pot itself has a capsule collider just as a complete coverall. But these planes, or quads, can't remember which ones I added in, but these also had a mesh collider attached to them for some reason. So because of the intersections between all the colliders, it gave a little bit of space for the player to get stuck. But there's also been quite a few other comments about other little things that are going to help shape this new project. Now, unless there's a completely game-breaking bug that nobody's found yet, I probably won't be updating this game anymore. Like I said, this was a bit of practice, this was a demo build, and I just wanted to make sure that I could actually do a 3D game, because I don't know if you already know, but I usually specialise in mobile games. I have a couple on Google Play that you can go and have a go at. They're nothing fantastic, but that was what I was interested in at that point. Now I'm really interested in 3D, specifically first person. I just think it's so rewarding when you see a game coming together like this. And I really hope to make a few more of these in the future, which are going to be released over on itch and potentially also Steam. Let's just see how they go. And again, one of the main criticisms that I overheard on the grapevine is my UI was crap. And yeah, that is a bit crap, I will admit. It does its purpose, but it just looks terrible. And again, that is one of the main things. That's the first thing a player's going to see. And if they look at that and just think, what the hell is that? They may close the game and never actually even get into it. As far as I know, nobody did. But you always want to try and take care, like I said, over every little aspect of your game. And just as a final showcase, I just wanted to show you what these props look like inside Blender when I've made them. They're just really simple shapes because, again, we're going for that low poly look. And these are split out into several different sections. This one was raw assets for the bedrooms. Every bedroom has at least one or two of these items in there. All the paintings. Some of these I don't think I ended up using. And I don't know why. If you can spot one that isn't in the game, let me know which one I didn't use. But yeah, like I said at the start, if there's anything that you actually know of in the game that you want a tutorial on, be it the trigger events, the interaction system, anything like that, if you're interested in it, let me know in the comments and I'll see what I can cobble together for you. So I hope this has actually been useful for you. This is the first actual kind of, I don't know whether or not to call it a devlog because the game's already released. It's a post-devlog. But if you're interested in watching the new project take shape and form around from an empty project into what will be finally released, then let me know. I kind of like doing this, so I hope other people actually enjoy listening to my voice ramble on for, I don't know, what, about 20 minutes? But yeah, I think I'll leave it at that with this one. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. I'm always answering everybody down there, so feel free to get in touch. Join the Discord, anything like that. Love to hear from you. And if you haven't played the game yet, I'll leave a link down in the description. Go and check it out. It's free. What have you got to lose? So yeah, I'll see you again next week. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like the content, remember to subscribe to the channel for weekly Unity tutorials.